In the last chapter of RK Motors' Legend of Le Mans series, Mark Allin of Rare Drive discussed how much time a typical restoration of this caliber takes and why. He discussed how hours of time spent poring over period photos allows for the most correct restoration, as well as where Rare Drive sources parts for the car, even down to the smallest bolts. The car is a legend, so P1046 is receiving a legendary restoration. In Chapter 5, chassis P1046 will finally come together, just in time for its big debut. Follow along as Mark Allin with Rare Drive faces the pressure of the proverbial ticking clock to prepare P1046 for its worldwide premiere. Mark takes us on a journey from dyno testing Ford's legendary big block 427 to discussing the smallest details of the car's unparalleled restoration and why they went to such great lengths for this car.
So here we are. It's been a while since the last video and the car's come quite a long way. As you can see, the car's painted and assembled, and we're about 1 month away from having to deliver the car. So we have quite a bit of mechanical work done. Most of the chassis setup and mechanicals are finished. We're in the stage where we're doing the painting, striping, graphics, decals, final wiring, final mechanical sorting, alignment, things like that.
After scouring thousands of historic photos and maintaining a keen eye on the technical data obtained straight from Ford Motor Company, Rare Drive needed to tear the car down completely and take inventory of what was original and what wasn't. Upon taking tally of their findings, Rare Drive began sourcing correct parts and finishing them as necessary, as well as restoring what is original, even to the point where modern advancements in technology take a back seat to what is accurate to the original car.
So when we restore a car like this, our goal is to have it be exactly like it was when it was original. We don't try to improve it or change how they did it just to prove that we can, or to preserve the car in a way that it wasn't preserved when it was new. This car will wear and tear just like it did when it was new because we've used exactly the same processes. So if it gets wet, there'll be pieces that get rusty. So the engine compartment is pretty much complete now, and as you can see, it's complicated and cluttered, and that's the way the cars were done originally. The engine compartment is full of all the details that make this car special. When the exhaust system was made, these are the original tailpipes, and one pipe is longer than the other. The car was done to be a successful race car, not a show car. So whatever was the easiest, most reliable route to accomplish their goals, that's what they did.
Rare Drive has established themselves as being the preeminent shop in building the most original and historically accurate vintage race cars, especially GT40s, in the world. Their reliance on historical photos is key in eventually presenting to the world a 50-year-old car that looks as if it's ready to roll onto the grid at the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans.
The engines in the GT40s, the Mark IIs, don't have an actual stamped engine number in them. The engines were identified by a decal, so all of the cars had that oval Ford engine and foundry decal, and we had the decals made and had to copy exactly the style of handwriting that was put on this particular car and the location of the decals, including the fact that the one on the left is straight and the one on the right is a little bit crooked.
Getting the paint right was absolutely critical in the restoration of P1046, as the colors of the car are significant and accompanied with unique stories.
Now again, to stay true to the original construction of the car, we painted this car with lacquer, which is a product that isn't used very much anymore. The easiest way to achieve the original look is to use the original products. And so we used all original products so that we get the exact wear and tear that it would have had and the exact appearance that it had at the track in '66. The numbers on the car are hand painted on the car using just sign paint and a brush. And same with the New Zealand fern that was hand painted on the side of the car as a surprise for the New Zealand drivers. Now, the importance of hand painting it is that I want to see brush strokes where you can see that someone actually stood there, looked over it, dipped their brush in paint, and brushed on a number 2.
There was only one man entrusted with replicating several key hand paintings on P1046, and that was Alex Oliveira. Alex has positioned himself as one of the dominant pinstripers in the automotive community, with more years of experience than P1046 has been around.
Well, this is got to be perfect. What I'm doing is, this is going to be my pattern. And I'm going to transfer this onto the circle, and then I'll just paint it in. That's the easy part. The hard part is positioning it like the pictures are.
Alex also spent hours poring over historical photos provided by Rare Drive, with many more hours spent on the application of the white and silver paint. Mark at Rare Drive was able to deduct that the number 2s and the fern were applied at the track after seeing the photos right before the race, and of course during the race. Alex was even tasked with replicating the trunk jam drip present after the number 2 was applied to the nose at the track in what appears to have been a hurried state. While Alex took his time recreating the hand painting on the fiberglass, last steps were being taken to polish off the interior just the way it was outfitted for the race.
So the interior in this car is really cool. It has multiple different finishes. The chassis is painted blue like the rest of the chassis is, but then they accented the blue with wrinkle painted dash and wrinkle painted doors, and then of course the fabric seats with the parachute material and the nickel plated grommets. So the interior has a very interesting, sort of functional but pretty cool looking appearance. On every car there is a little decal on the right side of the dashboard that came with the Jones tachometer that tells what the calibration of the tachometer is. So it says at this RPM it really reads this, at this RPM it really reads that. And so that decal they just transferred to the dash so the drivers could see it and see what the variation of the tach is. And on every car they stuck that there with a piece of colored tape.
One of the more difficult pieces for Rare Drive during the car's restoration was having to custom create pieces no longer in production, like the car's windshield, amongst numerous other smaller items.
We had to have a windshield made for this car. The original windshields were a Ford part, XXX laminated, and they haven't made them in a million years. And so the replacement windshields that you can currently buy are not the right shape. They'll go in the hole, but they're too flat. They don't have the top to bottom curve and the side to side curve to match what was original. So we had a company come up and laser scan the car and copy an original windshield that we had of another car to make the exact shape that the windshield's supposed to be.
With P1046 almost near completion, Rare Drive exhales a sigh of relief and gaze upon their masterwork. But is the moment bittersweet? Where will P1046 go next? What is the next chapter in P1046's legacy?
I'm proud of the car. I mean, it's always been a dream of mine to do this particular car. I've loved this car since I was a little kid. You know, it's the car to me. And, you know, it's always bittersweet when the cars leave. You're kind of glad that it's done. You can move on to the next thing, but at the same time, they almost like a family member. They've been here so long. And you spend so much mental energy thinking about that car and worrying about that car and stressing out about everything that you've done and make sure that you've done it right.
After months of restoring and hours upon hours of grueling research, P1046 has now been restored to its former glory. And what impeccable timing. The car will be shipped to the Circuit de la Sarthe for the 2016 24 Hours of Le Mans, 50 years since that fateful day Ford and Shelby-American first claimed victory for America. Stay tuned for the 6th chapter in the Legend of Le Mans series. Who knows what's in store for P1046?